Hi, my name is Mike, and I'm here to read a comic. And today's comic is For Lovers Only, issue number 85, dated July 1976. Three stories of love from Charleston. This this collection is okay. It was fine. The cover is okay. It's fine. It's by Capello, and it's kind of like I would say kind of a New England type feel to it here. A young blonde woman sitting by the dock of the bay, and she envisions herself kissing a very handsome young man here. So I'm going to go into the first story, and it's called Taming the Tigress. And we're not given a creative team, so I don't even think they wanted to remember this story. It's not that good, really, to be honest. The title on the splash page is somewhat creative because it does have this picture of a tigress, and I believe our protagonists are Karen and Edward. So the story opens up on the center of the splash page. We see Karen here. Karen is a very beautiful blonde here. I'm kind of thinking who she kind of looks like. I'm thinking maybe thinking who's that actress? I don't want to say Jan Brady, but yeah, she kind of looks like Jan Brady, or Eve Plum. And the guy here, he's kind of hairy. We'll say he kind of looks a little maybe like a young Donald Trump. So anyway, Karen we see is very aggressive with Edward. Edward's kind of a shy mama's boy type, even though he kind of fits the figure of a linebacker, at least back then. Football players were a little smaller back then. And we see there's a female there. She's looking on. I guess she kind of has a Joyce DeWitt thing to her. And she's seeing this, and she's seeing how uncomfortable Ed is. This woman is the kind of the best friend. I believe her name is Mona. Mona is in a relationship with someone else, and she's quite happy. But nevertheless, she does care a lot about Ed. And she sees how aggressive Karen is with Ed, and she's noticing how Ed is kind of scared here. We see Karen saying to Ed, "I've done judo, ballet, and gymnastics, Edward. That was when I was young. Now I have more mature activities in mind." And we see Ed saying, look, Karen, there are plenty of cats who are more your type. I mean, I'm a quiet, home-loving mama's boy. She wouldn't let me stay out after midnight. And we see the friend thinking, like, wow, she's got poor Ed scared silly. Turn the page. So we see in these last few panels here that both Karen and Ed are embracing, but nevertheless they're going through a dialogue, and the dialogue isn't really matching what the reader would expect. We see Karen coming on very strong to Ed, but Ed is kind of turning back these advances. So it looks like Ed doesn't have much self-confidence. But the strange thing here is that Karen is saying that Ed brings out the tigress in her. I'm thinking maybe Ed might be easy prey. That's the only way I could see this guy bringing out the tigress in a woman. But nevertheless, she's turned on by this. And then she gets closer, and then she initiates a full-on kiss with Ed. Turn the page. Ed is a little scared here. His forehead grows a little bit. But the thing is, he's saying, "Keep away, Karen. I've had it with your jokes." Karen says, "Go ahead and run, chicken." So we see here, it's kind of like a very kid-like situation here. Now, Anne, who's the best friend, is talking to Karen. And Anne is saying, "That was a dirty trick, Karen. If Ed Havens wasn't such a nice guy, you'd never get away with it." And Karen says, "Yes, Anne, but that's the whole point. Ed is too good to be true." And Ed kind of sulks away, kind of being like honestly, like a little pussy here. And he's acting like, girls have cooties and, he can't actually enjoy himself with the opposite sex. We see Ed driving home. We see him kind of looking like Adolf Hitler here, and or the mustache man, and he's saying, "It wasn't a total loss. When Karen kissed me, that was nice." Gonna turn the page. Hope Eva Braun doesn't find out. So it turns out that that Karen and Ed, they run in the same circle of acquaintances. So they know the same people, and they tend to meet each other simply because whenever the gang has a get together, someone ends up inviting each of them. And we see this is a pool party, and we see Anne is with her boyfriend here, and they're both observing Ed and Karen. And they're kind of, again, playing this game. They're pretending not to know each other, even though they're kind of staring at each other. And the two have a little bit of private time here. Ed, for some reason, has green hair now. He might be morphing into the Joker, so Karen might want to be careful. But nevertheless, Karen goes to Ed and says, "Ed, I think I owe you an apology." And Ed says, "For what, Karen? Making a dummy out of me in front of your friend Anne? I don't mind." So he's kind of being a little sarcastic here, a little babyish. "You really hurt my feelings." But Ed says, "Besides, one of these days I'm gonna get even." Now, hopefully he's not channeling Ted Bundy type get even, but nevertheless he's kind of showing definitely some incel energy. We see Ed. He's talking to Anne. Anne is Karen's friend. But nevertheless, I guess Ed has some friends that are Karen's friends, and he doesn't really know it. "Anne, you've been Karen's friend for years. Do you know her birthday?" Funny you should ask, Edward. It's 1 week off. I've been shopping for a gift." "I don't think she expects a gift from you, Ed." Ed says, "She may be surprised, Anne. I got something special in mind." Turn the page, kind of a little creepy here. Take a look at it. Look at an ad, and it's for perfume. And on one hand, it's saying $1 perfume offer, but in this very fine print, we're seeing some pretty pricey prices here, like $40, $50 to $100 an ounce. And mind you, they're advertising to people who are spending 25 cents for a comic book. So it must be a real drama queen. So, wow. And they even limit it. So, and you had to spend extra if you're a Canadian. So I don't know if this makes it look more legit or not. And turn the page. So then we see Ed and Karen. They're on the tennis court. And it turns out that Anne and her boyfriend Lou wanted to play doubles with Ed. But the thing is, Ed's original date dropped out. So Ed is asking Karen if she would like to step in. She's okay with this. Because again, she's friends with Anne and Lou. And it turns out that Karen and Ed, they're kind of a good match here, at least tennis-wise. They're playing very well. Looks like they're winning. Karen is quite filled. She fills that T-shirt up. And then later, after the game, Ed asks Karen out for a date, saying that there's going to be a masquerade party. And would you like to come? And Karen says, "Yeah, sure, I'll go." It's interesting point of view here. It's through one of the rackets. It may not necessarily be the most creative thing. I think Capello wanted to be creative, but he kind of had a hard time here. But nevertheless, we are at the party. It's a masquerade party. I don't know what Karen is dressed as, because her from the neck up she looks the same. We see Ed is kind of in this strange kind of somewhat male Medusa outfit. Can turn the page. So anyway, it turns out that Ed is asking Karen to come over to his apartment for a dinner party that he's having with Anne and Lou. So the thing is, Karen, under these pretenses, she thinks it's going to be a dinner party of 4 held in Ed's apartment. And that's what she agreed to, and it's kind of important later on. Then Friday night comes, and Karen arrives at Ed's place. It turns out that Ed is cooking here. It turns out there's something in the air. Karen says, "Well, is that incest I smell?" And that's sexy music. So it kind of looks like Ed is kind of doing that bit on Saturday Night Live, kind of those 2 wild and crazy guys. That's what Ed is doing right here. Karen steps into the apartment. Ed embraces her quite roughly from here. It makes it seem like Ed is really coming on strong. So he's turning the page that we saw on the splash page, where Karen was the aggressor. Now in this case, Ed is the aggressor. Ed is saying, "Hey baby, I thought this is what you want." And Karen realizes that she's alone in the apartment. That Ken and Mona. Now, the person who lettered this comic screwed up, because originally it was Lou and Mona. Now it's Ken and Mona. But anyway, regardless, Karen knows that those 2 are not in the apartment. She's alone with Ed here. Ed is acting very grapey here, and he keeps coming on, and he grabs Karen. He physically forces himself onto her, and again, this is sort of Ed's way of teaching her a lesson. And Karen's starting to get scared here, get nervous. She's saying, "You're out of your mind." Turn the page. And then they're embracing, but the embrace is much softer now. So Karen doesn't feel like she's in danger. Ed is not acting as aggressive. Nevertheless, Karen says, "Ed, you're crazy." And then Ed says, "No, Karen, you're crazy. Crazy about me." So then the 2 start becoming much closer, much more romantic, much more intimate. Karen says, "Ed, that's all a joke, a put on. Look, I'm sorry." Ed's like, "So that was a put on, Karen. Well, now it's my turn, Tigress. I love you, Karen. And that's no put on. Happy birthday." So, yeah, Ed is kind of like showing these very extreme polar emotions here. Karen says she loves Ed. They embrace and they kiss. And the last thing we see are dishes. Because, he had tamed the tigress, and she's going to know her place, and she's going to do those dishes. And, yeah, this is a terrible story. I hope this couple doesn't make it simply for Karen's sake. I think she signed up to be a trad wife here, and I don't know if this guy is worth it. So I'm going to go on to the next story. And the next one is called Shortage of Love. And this is a story I really liked. I really enjoyed this. I got a feeling that maybe somebody lived this life. And I'm gonna take a look. I think the I think the antagonist is Link Parsons, and Tina, and there's also Jigger. We got a Jigger here. I'm kind of hoping that the author intended to use another word that sort of rhymes with Jigger, and this is kind of like his passive aggressive way of putting it in here. But hey, I have to give the guy the benefit of the doubt. So we see a young woman, Tina, very beautiful young woman. She kind of, again, has that Annette O'Toole look to her. Beautiful ginger here. Maybe a little bit of Tina Louise. And she's pumping gas. It's a gas station, 1976. There was an oil crisis going on in the United States. It had started in 1973. I believe it lasted maybe until 1975. And then it would periodically show up. I think it showed up again in 77 and 79. This is when the nations of OPEC had basically turned the Western powers' economic system on them. And the Arab countries, they started flexing their muscle. There was a great deal of resentment over this. And I think a lot of it was kind of racist, saying, hey, we take advantage of you, not vice versa. And they did not like, these countries, Muslim countries, mostly brown people, and they were kind of like putting the screws on white America. I think there was definitely that dynamic there. And so this is sort of a kind of a callback to this. So this is a very contemporary story here. So Tina is pumping the gas here, proving that hey, women can be losers too in the economic market, or at least the economic job market. Prior to making fun of fast food employees, the job that was most associated with you are a barely functioning individual in society was the gas attendant. And usually they wore a uniform, they pumped gas, which is not terribly taxing in terms of a job. And there's, of course, very little mobility doing this job. And this is sort of the job that was, people would point to and go, ha ha, you don't want to be that person. But we see Tina, she has taken this job here. We'll see why. We see there's an obnoxious guy named Jigger who knows Tina. And there's another guy called Link Parsons. And he's with Jigger, and he doesn't like the way Jigger is talking to Tina. Now, he's not actually looking at Tina or interacting with her, but nevertheless, he doesn't like the way that Jigger is speaking to her. And he comes to her defense here. And so the two are kind of like looking for a fist fight. So this is, Jiggers versus Parson here. Tina is laying down the law, saying, listen, I pumped the gas, so I'm master of this universe for this little thing. You may not think much about me and my job, but you care about what I pump. So Tina's kind of using that to stop these two from getting into an altercation. Turn the page. And Tina's a little pissed because, the thing is that even though Jigger was acting like a real jerk, she still had to service him, so to speak, because he is a paying customer. So eventually, she fills up his tank, and he goes. But nevertheless, Tina doesn't feel good about having to be nice to kind of a creepy guy like that. Link doesn't think too much of Jigger. So as he's driving off, he's kind of bad-mouthing her. This might be like a verbal cock block. I've done that sometimes, where this girl I was somewhat interested in, and I would kind of bad-mouth, whoever she was interested in, which is usually not me. Um, Tina's thinking to herself that at least Jigger looks at her, so she's sort of hungry for male attention, because even though Jigger was the one who stood up for her and kind of like made sure that she was treated in a very respectful way. Nevertheless, Tina's was like, hey, at least the crappy creep, at least he looked at me. He noticed me, despite how bad the interaction was. So it turns out that Tina actually knows Link. Apparently, they went to high school, and Link was a couple of years ahead of her. So because of that kind of grade difference, she couldn't find a way of socializing with Link when they were in college, in high school. So Tina's kind of thinking that maybe she might be able to do it now, since they're both kind of in the job market, and they do know each other, because they're on a first name basis. But it looks like Link really isn't paying that much attention to Tina. Little surprising. Again, Tina's a beautiful woman. So then it turns out that it's closing time at the gas station. Tina has punched out for the night. She's ready to go home. And who shows up in the gas station but Link? And the thing is, Link needs some gas for his car, because it looks like he's going to a party. He has a date, beautiful blonde woman here, and she's a little catty with Tina, because apparently she knows Tina. It looks like the two weren't friends, and it looks like the blonde might be a little jealous of Tina. So anyway, so this is the drama going on now. Tina says that the pumps are closed, so she can't sell them any gas, but she has some gas in her tank, and if he's willing to siphon it off, he can take a few gallons for himself and then pay her back. And Link agrees to this. Turn the page. The Link's date, the blonde, she gets a little catty with Tina, saying, "Why don't you let the girl do it, siphoning the gas? She's probably going to charge $1 a gallon anyhow." And Tina says, "If you wanted the gas, I'd let you walk, sweetie." So Tina's not going to take any of this woman's crap, because Tina agreed to the siphoning doesn't mean she agreed to do it. And she's making it clear, Link, you're going to siphon the gas. You're going to have that smelly, horrible tasting liquid in your mouth. I've had enough of that because I work for my uncle. But it's going to be in your mouth now. Link was okay with this, but the Link's date is sort of like, why don't you allow the peasantry, the working class, to do that? She's going to overcharge you anyway. You might as well get something out of the old cow. So there's a bad, vibes between these two. Link is, however, grateful to her. Tina looks beautiful. She's really drawn beautiful. Kind of has this Tina Louise look to her. It turns out that Tina actually wants her uncle, who owns the gas station, to have the sale. So even though this is Tina's gas and Tina's car and Tina's gas tank, nevertheless, she wants it to be credited as a sale made by her uncle, the gas station owner. It turns out she does have a close relationship with him, so it's a little bit understandable there. And Tina wishes Link a nice night at the country club, because that's where Link and his date are going. The country club, which is they were kind of big things back then. I never knew anyone who was a member of a country club. The closest was my half sister, who was a member of a swim club, in her little Rockaway County town. And I remember having really good memories of it. It was really fun, and it kind of did have a country club feel to it. Though we often weren't welcome there because we were guests, and they did extend guest passes. And even though we were just using them as regular people, they kind of looked down on us, saying, "Ugh, I mean, we give away guest guest passes, but we don't actually expect you people to use them." That was sort of their attitude. So anyway, as Link and his date are going to the country club dinner, the date kind of says something a little catty to Tina. She wasn't bad looking in high school, Link. It's a shame how some girls just let themselves go. And Tina's thinking to herself, I'd like to give her a fat lip. And yeah, so a little bit of cattiness here. It turns out, and we see here, is that Tina's father had a heart attack. And because of that, Tina has had to put certain aspects of her life on hold. Simply because daddy isn't feeling well. Daddy's recovering from a heart attack. And again, Tina's a daddy's girl, which means that she's going to be focused on daddy. And because of that, she's had to go on a job search to kind of support herself and her dad during this time. It turns out that it was the mid 70s and it was difficult to get a job. So Tina was having trouble getting a job. It forced her to look into alternative forms of employment. Now, Tina did not go that route, even though that route actually was a high paying job for most women. The only problem is that if you had a pimp, he would take it all. But the thing is, Tina was kind of looking for different types of employment where you normally would not see a female face there. So we see Tina, she's taking care of dad. Dad kind of looks a little like, kind of like a good looking Richard Nixon, maybe. And she's kind of gossiping with dad, you know. And it turns out dad has an exercise program that he has to follow. He seems like a very compliant patient here. So he's not giving the doctor any lip or any type of resistance here. Turn the page. You can take a look at an ad. And it's an ad for Jerry of Hollywood. And I guess Jerry of Hollywood was probably a business that looked like it sold pictures of celebrities. And it looks like they mostly were probably wallet-sized photos, but I'm sure they had some older, larger posters. I'm going to take a look and see what posters were popular back then. Elvis still had a lot of juice. So even though we see one Beatles poster, we see 1, 2, 3, 4. We see 4 Elvis posters. We see a couple Robert Redford posters, 3 of them in fact. Robert had passed away, I think, about a month ago from recording this. We also see Barbra Streisand, Bruce Lee, Star Trek, Michael Landon, Raquel Welch, Anne Margaret, Marilyn Monroe, and I think there's Mac Davis here. So yeah, I guess that's what was popular. Those are the photos of what the kids had, or maybe the older adults had at this time. So we're gonna go back into the story. We see Tina. She's at the gas station. She does feel a little down about her current situation because of her dad's heart attack. One, she has to take care of her dad, and that's been affecting her social life because the hours that she's spending with dad, she's not out partying. She had to do a lot more chores at home. In addition, she sort of has to work this job, which does not have necessarily that much dignity, and she does have to deal with people she knows. So if there's someone who kind of doesn't like her, they're in a position to take advantage of it. But nevertheless, she's working for her uncle, which she does like she does like him. So that's sort of the one plus that's going for her at this moment. So then it turns out Link shows up again, but he's without the bitchy date, the bitchy like Charlene Tilton date. And Link is asking, could Tina fill his tank? Tina says, "Sorry, Link, we've got a $3 limit, and we'll be out of gas by Friday anyhow." So it looks like again the gas crisis was going on. I'm not sure about that $3 limit though. I mean that sounds really low. So I don't know. I don't remember if there are any type. There probably were limits. Um, Part of the reason why there was a gas crisis was because people were panicking over the gas crisis. If there was less panic, there would have been fewer inconveniences. I do remember that there was a lot of panic buying. So it looks like Tina might have some time off because she's pumping gas and she doesn't have gas to pump by Friday. Link is noticing this, saying, "Hey, listen, you'll probably get off early then. So do you want to go on a date?" And it looks like Tina likes that idea. She's again drawn very beautifully here, and they're gonna meet at the um, Tahian Town. The Tahian Town. That's the name of the restaurant that Tina wants to go. So Link was being very gracious, and he allowed Tina to pick the spot. And Tina had a spot in mind. Hopefully, she's not looking for one of those free dates or free dinners. I don't believe so. But nevertheless, she's very happy about the prospects of both, dating Link and going to this particular restaurant. And as Link is driving off, Tina's thinking to herself that maybe Link just feels sorry for her because his date last night was rude to Tina. And this might be just an attempt for him to kind of alleviate the guilt about that encounter. At least that's what Tina is thinking. Tina is talking to her Uncle Bob. Uncle Bob owns the gas station, and Tina's asking for a few hours off since they're not going to be working that much anyway, and she wants to see Link. Turns out the uncle is completely supportive of this, saying, "Listen, Tina, if you want to grab a few extra dollars from the register, just write a note on how much you took, and you can just pay me back on Monday." So again, the uncle's being really nice here, really supportive. He's not exactly paying for that date though, because Tina has to pay it back. But he's making this as easy as possible for Tina. Turn the page. So then we see Tina. She's kind of like in this short skirt here, looking very beautiful. Again, kind of like Tina Louise here. She likes Link a lot. And Link's making pleasant conversation, saying, "Hey Tina, how's your dad?" "Oh, Daddy's doing fine. Do you want to meet him?" And the thing is, it turns out that the father and Link knew each other. They were both members of the Members of Commerce. This, of course, means that Daddy approves of Link, and that Link's values and Tina's dad's values are in a line. They're kind of these selfish Republicans who care about material things. Tina loves her dad. She's a daddy's girl. So she's gonna want a guy who has a similar mindset to his mindset, her dad. And so yeah, they're all here. They're ready to become, Orange County Republicans, circa 1976. Tina's saying that she hadn't had a date in months. Link is pointing out that she had enough invitations. So all those guys who came into the gas station and looked at Tina and looked at Tina's job and were catcalling her and making all types of harassment to her. Link is taking that as, hey, you got invited to a lot of dates. Even though they sound more like date grapes than anything else. So they reach the restaurant here. They're talking amongst each other in the car. Tina's mentioning the fact that she is feeling the effects of the economy and her situation. She wants to go out and be more social, but circumstances have made that very difficult for her, and she's kind of bearing this out to Link. Link is providing an easy ear for her, and kind of like he feels sympathetic. But Tina is not one to feel sorry for herself. Tina is in this restaurant. This is like Casa Bonilla, and she is enjoying it. She is smiling here. She has her little drink, and like Steve Martin in The Jerk with the little umbrella in it, and Tina is enjoying herself. She is escaping all those gas fumes that she has to hoof for 12 hours a day. And then she has to go home and wipe daddy's butt. And turns out that Link is really kind of smitten with Tina, talking about her, saying, listen, when I wasn't around you, I was talking about you. So I'm kind of thinking that, hey, I'm a lucky guy, just knowing you. Turn the page. I don't need to look at this ad here for nails. So we're going to go to the conclusion of the story. Still, Tina has a lot of weight on her shoulders. She does have a father who is disabled, who's expected to recover, but nevertheless, he's still disabled at this point. He does need assistance, and that the loneliness and lack of companionship, even though she's a very beautiful woman, is kind of weighing down on her. Link is saying, don't be bitter, doll. You've got a lot more going for you than any girl I know. Looks, personality, and everything else. And you got that job, that menial job. But I'm going to overlook that humiliating job you have. So anyway, it looks like Link drives Tina home. And Tina regards that night as a success. She had fun. She didn't care. She kind of unloaded some of her problems, but for the most part, she had fun. Link is embracing Tina here. The two are kissing. Tina's saying, "Listen, I actually splurged a little bit of money. I spent maybe $76, maybe $25 on a new dress." Link is saying, "I got news for you, Tina. You look perfectly pretty in overalls too." So he's saying he doesn't care which Tina he has, whether he kind of has, night on the town Tina, or whether he has, gas jockey Tina. Nevertheless, he loves both of them. And he's saying, I don't mind those gas fumes, which will cause me cancer in maybe 15 years. I love you now. And the two embrace. And I think these two are going to make it. I like Tina. She's very responsible. She was willing to do things that she needed to do. She went outside convention and so forth. And she's gonna make it. And Link's a decent guy. He doesn't like Jigger. So then we go to our last story. And it's called Lifeguard Shark. And our two protagonists are, gotta see, because the names are not on the splash page. And oh wow, come on, show me the names. Okay, so I don't know the names of our protagonists. I think one is Jones, Jim Jones, of all things. And Jimmy Jones, that's the name of one of the protagonists. And I don't know the female yet. Marcy. So it's Jimmy and Marcy, and we see they're on the beach. Jimmy seems like kind of one of these overripe, muscular creeps who thinks he's like some type of Greek statue. Marcy's a very attractive blonde, kind of has a Suzanne Summers look to her. Um, she's a lifeguard. She takes the job very seriously, though. Now, she's someone who has a reputation of being a cold fish, but even though she's not, she doesn't kind of interact with a lot of the guys on the beach simply because she's doing her job. And she points out that, it's only when she's doing her job that these guys approach her, and that when she's off duty, no one really goes near her or bothers her. I don't know whether it's a situation where she's kind of circling the drain, but nevertheless, she's sort of stuck in this cycle where once she's off duty, she can't really find anyone. It's only on duty that guys kind of find her attractive. But the thing is, they notice that they're not really scoring with her. So anyway, Jim has decided that he's going to get a date with Marcy, that he can force this to happen. Marcy's looking out. She's doing her job. She's watching the swimmers. But she's also thinking that, hey, it's a little light here. Maybe I can jump into the water and get a dip while I'm kind of like, babysitting these dumbasses. The creative team is Charles Nichols and Bob Layton. Bob Layton became a well-known comic book artist, but I guess this is sort of the early days of Bob's career. So anyway, this kind of sleazy guy kind of looks a little like Adolf. He's friends with Jimmy. Adolf here is kind of throwing some cold water on Muscles here, saying that, hey, no guy has scored with her, so what makes you think you're going to be any different? But Jimmy's like, yeah, I'm different. And he tries to get Marcy's attention. Marcy's heading toward the water. She wanted to go in for a quick dip. And we see Marcy. She's speaking rather coldly to Jimmy, because we could see this from the dialogue balloons. You can see it's kind of very very cold shape to it. Jimmy's kind of putting that Biff Tannen energy into it. And he's being really kind of creepy here to Marcy. He's reaching out to her physically. Marcy doesn't like this. She's trained in judo. So, she can kind of handle touchy guys like this. And he flips him over her shoulder. But, again, this is a beach, so this is kind of a soft landing. But nevertheless, Jimmy wasn't expecting this, and kind of Marcy schooled him, and she's walking off saying that, hey, I'm going to go into the water and enjoy my swim, and I never want to see you again. That's what Jimmy's saying, that he doesn't want to see her again. And we see Marcy saying that, hey, that's fine with me. And I'm going to turn the page. So then we see Marcy is leaving for the night. Her duty. She's not there for 24 hours. So when her shift is done at sundown, we can see here. So this is probably California. In terms of watching sundowns in California, my opinion, the two best places are in San Diego. There's a place called Sunset Cliffs, and it's an area that's near Ocean Beach. And Ocean Beach is kind of the city beach. Some of the other beaches near La Jolla, they're more suited toward the touristy part of the city. But City Beach is kind of where the quiet beach is. I think it's in Point Loma. And that's the beach where a lot of the citizens go to kind of escape the tourists. And San Diego's a great city. And the other place is in Los Angeles, in Santa Monica Beach. I mean, Venice Beach is only like 3 miles away, but I particularly like Santa Monica Beach in terms of watching the sunset. It's really beautiful. So anyway, Marcy's walking along the beach. She's seeing couples there. They're being very romantic as the sun is going down. Marcy is kind of bemoaning her station in life at this point because, again, she does want someone. She does want a companion, and she wants that loving embrace. But at the same time, she's not really meeting anyone because, again, when she's off duty, no one really approaches her. So you can see she's very sad. She's very beautifully drawn, though. So anyway, Marcy is driving home. She's kind of feeling sorry for herself. And once again, she is beautifully drawn. Turn the page. Take a look at an ad here. This is for Charleston Bullseye. Charleston Bullseye was kind of like this strange fanzine. Charleston had a strange business model that was stranger than Marvel's and DC's, and their business models could be strange at times in the 70s. Charleston was largely a company that did everything in-house, both literally and figuratively. Everything that was published out of Charleston was done literally in one facility in Connecticut. And the guys who ran it, they were guys who came over from Italy. They were printers, and they were printing various materials. But the thing with printing presses at the time was that they really needed to be on 24 hours because that was the way to get the most usage out of them. These machines did not like being turned on and off. And you were actually going to shorten their lifespan if you did that. So the idea was they needed to be on 24/7. And one of the reasons why Charleston went into comics was that they would have material that they could print when they're not, printing their clients' material. And they had different line of comic books. Sometimes they would have licensed commercial material like the $6 Million Man. And they had the Flintstones. And they had Popeye, Scooby-Doo. And a few other comics that were based on TV media. And so they went into the comic book business to keep their presses warm. And they just had a different business model and a different creative point of view. One of the things they did was the Charleston Bullseye, where they would encourage creators to bring their characters to life in Charleston Bullseye. And the thing is that the creators would retain rights to those characters. So if those characters took off, conceivably, they could leave Charleston and then kind of sell the rights to another comic book. I don't think this has happened because it turned out that none of the characters that were created ended up having any type of lasting popularity. But you can see they have things like Space 1999, the $6 Million Man, which was, I loved that show as a kid, but it's really boring now. Emergency, and so this is a kind of a subscription to this Charleston's Bullseye. And you get 6 issues, I think, for like under $2. It's a pretty good deal. You take a look at this other ad talking about 5 towels. I bet you did get 5 towels, but you got 5 towels that you can put in the palm of your hand. So anyway, we're going to go back to the story. And we see that Jimmy is a kind of a spear fisherman. So he's out on the beach early, and he's out there, kind of hunting various sea life that he would then sell to some of the seafood restaurants that are kind of like lining the pier, so to speak. I know sometimes some of the videos that I watch on TikTok involve lionfish and how they're hunted and then they're actually sold as food to restaurants. Lionfish are these very beautiful fishes that have these long extended gills, and they're considered exotic fish, and they're very popular because they're very beautiful. But the thing is, they're very high maintenance. They eat a lot. So if you own one, you're constantly, like every night, going to the pet store. You're buying a bunch of goldfish, and then you're throwing the goldfish into the tank so they can be consumed by the lionfish, which one is a lot of trouble. Two, it's kind of disgusting. You feel bad for these poor fish that are just gonna end up on the menu. And the thing is, people would get tired of these fish and they would throw them into the ocean, particularly in Florida. And the thing is that they become an invasive species, simply because there's no predators for them. They spray out venom, but it's not poisonous venom. But nevertheless, because of all the spikes, they're unappealing for other fish to eat. Meanwhile, they're eating tons of fish. And then they have these divers who go out to kind of just basically keep their numbers down. And this looks like this is what Jimmy is doing. Sorry for that long tangent. We see Marcy. Marcy is noticing Jimmy, but she's ignoring him. And just thinking this is just another guy who's flirting. So Jimmy formally introduces himself. He's just saying, hey, my name is Jimmy, and I spearfish every morning, and that's how I make my money.
Jimmy had a name. Go, 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 Jimmy. Who's this guy, Jimmy? He's the fella that's got the nickel. You're too smart.
And Marcy is pointing out that Jimmy looks like he has a full bag. And there are limits to how much you can fish in these areas. So Marcy's kind of enforcing that. I think depending on the jurisdiction, lifeguards can do that. Jimmy's saying, listen, okay, if you don't like fish, how about lobster? How about we boil a couple of lobsters? Tell you, Jimmy likes killing sea life. Also, the thing is that this is not terribly appealing to Marcy, because she dislikes seafood, and she dislikes beach bums more. So she just sees this guy as a beach bum at this point, and that she has work to do. Jimmy's being a little apologetic. He thought what he thought was a flex turned out to be not a flex, and he's kind of backtracking a little. Marcy's saying, you don't have to apologize for being pathetic. Now, just please keep moving. Get your sorry ass away from me, because I have to go to work. Jimmy's pointing out how grouchy Marcy is. And he's thinking to himself that unless I was drowning, this woman would not pay me any attention. And Jimmy's thinking, wow, hey, that's kind of an idea. I'll turn the page. So then the next morning, we see Jimmy is out in the ocean. Marcy is on lifeguard duty. And Jimmy looks like he's in trouble here. Jimmy, he might be caught in a riptide. I got caught in a riptide in San Diego, and it was scary. It was scary. And there were a lot of people around, too. And one of the lifeguards fished me out, and God bless him. But, damn, those riptides are scary as fuck. And the weird thing is that I was in one earlier, and I got out just fine, but then I completely forgot all my lessons learned a little later. So anyway, Marcy's jumping into the ocean. She's swimming out to to see what's going on with Jimmy. Jimmy is saying that he can't move his legs. So I don't know whether he had a stroke or whether he's just getting tired. Jimmy looks like he's going under. His hand is about to go under with the rest of him. Marcy sees this. She sees that Jimmy is unconscious. She swims to Jimmy, beautifully drawn, and she takes Jimmy up to the surface. Again, beautifully drawn here. Turn the page. Marcy drags Jimmy out of the water. She's about to give Jimmy CPR, and then Jimmy kind of springs up to life, and he's like, hey baby, how you doing? You know what? If beauty were bricks, you would be a housing project. And he's saying, kind of giving kind of those corny lines like that, and it turns out that Marcy is very surprised by this, but she's also very unhappy because, again, she's a very professional woman, and this guy was treating her job, not seriously. And then Marcy slugs Jimmy with a right uppercut, and this guy feels it. This guy felt that punch, and Marcy walks off. Jimmy admits that it was a sneaky little trick, but he felt that was the only way he could talk to her. And Marcy wants nothing to do with Jimmy at this point. Gonna turn the page. So then a few weeks have passed. I guess bygones were bygones. I think part of the reason why was that that Jimmy made himself scarce around the ocean side. So while he was still fishing, he was sort of doing it more quietly. It looks like Marcy is taking a bit of a pre-break. So she got to the beach early, and she's saying, yeah, since I'm early, I'm just going to take advantage of the situation, kind of run a little, and then I'll go back on duty. And then it turns out that Marcy jumps into the water and takes a swim. But as Jimmy, who was on the beach, was ready to get into the water, he sees Marcy splashing around. And it turns out that there's a shark in the water. So Marcy is scared shitless of the shark. Again, this is timely. This is Jaws. I think an image of a Jaws magazine was drawn on the splash page. So they're broadcasting the influence in this story. So anyway, Marcy's really scared here because this isn't a joke. This is a genuine shark who's in the water with her. It turns out that Jimmy has some advice. He's telling Marcy to splash around, make a lot of commotion. Keep the shark circling until he can get closer. So he wants the shark to get more and more stimulated. I don't know if I would do that though. If it turns out the shark is not bothered by the splashing, if anything, he's more attracted because it seems like the shark is circling closer and closer and closer to Marcy in the water. And again, she's beautifully drawn here. I'm going to turn the page. So we see the water. There's a great deal of action. It looks like the shark is about to bite Marcy in the rear here. So he's going for the juicy part. It turns out Jimmy is swimming toward the two of them. He has the shark in sight. But the thing is, he knows that his time is limited because the shark is getting closer and closer to Marcy. He fires a shot from his spear gun because he hunts with a spear gun. He hits the shark dead on, and the shark is bleeding and eventually breaks off the attack and just sort of dies from a lack of blood. Then Jimmy approaches Marcy at the surface. The two are swimming back to shore as quickly as possible because they're not exactly sure what Jimmy's spear did. Whether Jimmy's spear killed the shark, just made the shark go dormant, or it's coming back. So the two reach the beach, the shore of the beach, and it turns out that Marcy is getting very close to Jimmy. She wants a soothing hug because she had that terrible experience in the water, and we see that Timmy is doing that right now. Turn the page. So then we have kind of that moment where the shark is on the dock, and it's happening here. It turns out the beach is closed for the night, and so it seems like that Marcy is going to have a little bit of time off here. She has to kind of recover from this traumatic experience. Jimmy wants to be there for her, and Marcy appreciates the fact that Jimmy came to her aid and rescued her. Jimmy starts off with, the creepy, hey, well, you could start thanking me by kissing me. Jimmy's coming on a little too strong. However, Marcy reciprocates and the two embrace. It looks like Jimmy's friends from, I'm thinking, what's that place? The Hellfire Club? Or the Ramrod? Or the Anvil? One of those sex clubs in New York in the late 70s, early 80s. These two definitely look like members of it. One of them is saying, "Look at that. I can't believe my eyes. It looked like our old cold lifeguard has finally caught herself a poor fish." So at this point, they're saying that Marcy has captured the heart of, what's his name again? This guy's so vanilla. Jimmy. So it's Jimmy and Marcy that they're embracing. I think maybe Marcy is having some trauma. She's confusing gratitude with love, maybe, I don't know. But nevertheless, the two have a wedding that apparently Richard Nixon is officiating in. And the two get married. Yeah, I guess this is fine. The story, I didn't really care too much about it. I didn't dislike it either. It's just okay. Some of the homoerotic imagery was interesting. Take a look at this ad. It's a collection of other ads mostly. Just kind of mail order scams, to be honest. And now I'm going to look at Buck's Bag. This is Buck Mason, who gets letters from kids, and he tries to give them some advice. We'll take a look at some of the advice he gives. The first one is from Daddy's little girl. So it turns out that this girl is 14, and she likes a boy who's 17. And this boy was a friend of her brother. So the thing is that her brother was a little older, about 17. He became friends with this kid, and the 14-year-old sister kind of fell in love with the guy because I guess he'd come over, not for her, but to hang out with his friend, and I guess they kind of got to know each other. It has turned out since then that this brother has passed away, that apparently he was killed in a car accident. So the brother is no longer there, but the young girl, the sister, has kept a relationship with the friend. So even though the brother is not there, she still does have a relationship with this young friend of her late brother. But it turns out there's a problem, and the problem is that this 17-year-old boy, and the ages are fine, they're appropriate. It turns out the 17-year-old boy has a brother, and that brother and her father do not get along. So she has a problem introducing this 17-year-old boy to her dad, who's already not happy about her dating a 17-year-old boy, because he wants her to wait until she's older before dating. And it turns out that this kid is the brother of a kid that the father doesn't like, and she's worried that the feelings are going to transfer over. And she's also kind of complaining that daddy won't let her out on a date. She says, listen, I'm a big daddy's girl, but he's treating me like, I'm just a little kid. And she wants to know what to do. And Buck says, listen, there's a lot going on in your plate. First of all, daddy is always going to view you as his little girl, which is true. She can be 30, 40, 50, whatever. That's daddy's little girl. And yeah, he's going to be reluctant to see you date, because that means you're getting older, and he's kind of like, he's gonna miss you. I have a friend who has 2 daughters, and she admits that she misses the playground years, where she can take them to the playground. They would be happy for hours. She would just be sitting there, kind of like watching them, and kind of like lost in her thoughts. But as the kids got older, those moments became fewer and fewer. And my friend did admit she did miss those days. So, yeah, I can see daddy maybe kind of like holding on a little too long. Buck says, as far as the issue with with your dad not liking this guy's brother, he doesn't think the father will transfer the negative feelings to him. But nevertheless, he's saying that you might want to introduce him to your dad very slowly. Maybe see if he can come over for a dinner, or come over and meet dad. This way dad can experience that, whatever issues he has with his brother, it won't transfer to this new kid. So yeah, that's what Buck's saying. Buck's saying go slow. And I kind of agree with that. And there's another one, 15-year-old girl, and she has a 17-year-old boyfriend, and they've been going out for about 7 months, a little over a year, and they're very happy, except that he smokes a lot of pot, and she doesn't like that. And they're talking about love and loss and all that. Confused really should not be that confused. And she wants to know whether she should leave or not. And Buck is saying, listen, do what you want. Leave or stay. But just so you know, I don't support smoking grass and its adverse effects and dangers on society and you kids, which is total nonsense. Total nonsense. It's not necessarily the product that causes the problem. It's the coping. It's what they're trying to escape from by using the grass. That's the problem. But nevertheless, okay, Buck is saying kind of don't say no. And he's also saying that if this boyfriend genuinely cared about you, he would respect the fact that you don't want him to smoke. Yeah, I don't agree with Buck there. And a couple of ads on weight loss. And yeah, and there's watches, Elvis watches, Star Trek watches. They're pretty pricey though. They're like almost $30. And that's it. And that is my review of For Lovers Only, issue number 85. And I hope to have more reviews up soon. Bye.